Good morning to those of you who are just joining us for today's webinar, AI Governance, a conversation with Elizabeth Kelly, Director of the U.S. Artificial Intelligence Safety Institute. My name is Joey Gartner. I'm Director of the American Bar Association Center for Innovation and Staff Counsel for our Task Force on Law and Artificial Intelligence. We'd like to welcome you to today's fireside chat from the American Bar Association with Elizabeth Kelly, the Director of the U.S. AI Safety Institute. Today's conversation is the production of the Presidential Task Force on Law and Artificial Intelligence. The views of today's speakers may not represent those of the ABA and have not been approved by the House of Delegates or the Board of Governors. As a few housekeeping issues while we get started this morning, we will have the question and answer function turned on, so please feel free to post any questions you have in the chat. Questions may be answered live if time allows. Moderating today's chat is Cynthia Swick. Cynthia currently serves as the Vice Chair of the ABA Presidential Task Force on Law and AI. Cynthia was a partner for 20 years at two global law firms, Jones Day and Latham and Watkins. Cynthia has been a fellow with Stanford University's Distinguished Careers Institute program, where she focused on cutting-edge technology, including AI. Cynthia is also the former chair of the ABA section of Science and Technology Law. And Cynthia is co-editor of the forthcoming ABA book, Artificial Intelligence, Legal Issues, Policy, and Practical Strategies, which will be released at the upcoming ABA annual meeting, which will be in Chicago, Illinois, from July 31st to August 7th. Cynthia, good morning.
Good morning, Joey, and good morning to everyone. I'm very excited that we have with us today Elizabeth Kelly. She is the current director of the U.S. AI Safety Institute at the National Institute of Standards of Technology, or NIST, which is part of the Department of Commerce. So welcome, Elizabeth. She previously served as a special assistant to the president for economic policy at the White House National Economic Council, and she handled the financial regulation and technology portfolios, and she was a driving force behind President Biden's executive order on AI. She also was in the Obama administration and helped stand up the economic policy team of the Biden presidential transition. And between administrations, Elizabeth helped start and grow a fintech company, United Income, which was then sold to Capital One. She holds a JD from Yale Law School and a master's degree in comparative social policy from Oxford, as well as her bachelor's degree from Duke. So welcome, Elizabeth. We're so thrilled you're able to join us today. We know you're extremely busy with the many different tasks that you and your Institute is involved with. So we appreciate your taking the time to talk with us today. I wanted to start by talking about the White House executive order on AI, which was issued in October of last year. As you know, that executive order is quite lengthy, more than 100 pages, but it's the United States' most extensive federal policy directive governing the development and use of AI. The executive order acknowledges both the potential and the challenges associated with AI while setting a policy framework aimed at the safe and responsible use of the technology. You were working at the White House as a special advisor for economic policy at the time that the executive order was issued, and you played a very important role in its development. So can you please give us some background on the executive order and your role with it?
Absolutely. And first, let me say thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. So the administration has long been focused on AI, and I would think about the executive order as a really natural continuation of the work that we've done before. We started with the AI Bill of Rights, which articulates bedrock principles for ensuring that AI systems are safe, effective, and transparent, and prioritize civil rights, equity, and privacy protection. A few months later, the National Institute of Standards of Technology, my employer now and the home of AI Safety Institute, published the AI Risk Management Framework, which guides AI developers and deployers in evaluating and managing AI's risks. I know you've had conversations with my NIST colleagues about how foundational that document has been. The White House also received voluntary commitments from 15 leading developers, including Anthropic, Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, to take steps to promote the safe, secure, and transparent development of AI technology, including doing testing and evaluation of their systems prior to deployment. And so the EO really builds on all of this work, and it was the president's directive that we pull every lever at the federal government's disposal to harness the power of artificial intelligence for good, while protecting people from its profound risks. You use the phrase that we often do, promise and peril, and I think that's really what the executive order does. And the fact that we did it so quickly, for government at least, I think really speaks to the urgency that the president feels. As you noted, for its many benefits, brevity is not among them. Perhaps some of you have read it or used one of the large language models to summarize it for you. But I think it's useful to think about the executive order in 3 buckets. The first is really focused on how do we spur innovation? How do we increase research and development dollars through efforts like the National AI Research Resource? How do we attract talent to the country that can help ensure that the US continues to lead in AI development, as well as train and skill our existing workforce to take advantage of the opportunities AI will create? And then how do we as the federal government actually both support AI's development, but also better use it ourselves so that we can better serve the American people? And that is a large part of the executive order as well. At sort of the more regulation oversight level, I would put that into 2 separate categories. The first is, how do we think about regulation at the application level? And there it really relies on the existing authorities of the sectoral regulators. If you're going to use AI in making a lending decision, financial services authorities have existing tools they can use. If you're going to use AI in making healthcare determination, there we have HHS. As has been said by, I think, many folks in the administration, there's no AI exception to the laws on the books. And the executive order really provides directives to agencies about how to think about overseeing and regulating AI and the new challenges it brings. The last piece, I think, is most relevant for the work that I'm doing today at the Safety Institute, is around the underlying frontier models that power all of these deployments and applications. This is section 4 of the executive order for the real nerds among you. And there we're really on an intensive information gathering mission. There's only one sort of actual legal requirement for the underlying LMs, and that's to report to the Bureau of Information Security the existence of models trained using 10 to the 26 flops. But beyond that, we're really relying on guidance and voluntary commitments. And that feeds into the work that we are doing at the AI Safety Institute. I am either the wise or foolish person who decided to write homework that I then took myself. And so I look forward to talking about the work that we're doing at AC.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Just another question about the executive order. Not only is it quite lengthy, but it's also very ambitious, as you know, and it sets out a number of deliverables and a timetable for those deliverables. For example, there are certain actions that were to be completed within the first 90 days, the first 120 days, the first 150 days, and the first 180 days. And as part of those deliverables at the 180-day mark in April of this year, NIST released 4 draft documents for public comment. And I think those documents are really important. And so I wanted to make sure we had a chance to at least briefly let our audience know about their existence, because I think that they would find them quite interesting. In particular, there's the AI RMF generative AI profile was released for public comment in April of this year. And it defines the specific types of risks posed by generative AI and proposes actions for generative AI risk management. So I thought it would be really important for our audience to know about this document and its current status. I do believe that the public comments for that ended on June 4th. And so if you could, talk a little bit about that and what the status is and when you think that'll be final. And I did note that, you have received some some useful comments. And for example, from UC Berkeley, they did note that they expect that this document will become a widely referenced resource. So I think that, you know, it's important to learn more about that and to let people know about the existence of these documents.
Absolutely. So to your first point, yes, the executive order has a number of deliverables, a lot of really ambitious timelines. But to use an old football quote, you are what your record says you are.
Yeah.
And to date, we have not missed a single executive order deadline across the entirety of the administration, which is, I think, a real feat and something that we're all committed to continuing. As you noted, at the end of April, NIST released 4 documents for public comment, one being the AI-RMF generative AI profile that I'll chat a little bit more about, another being a secure software development practices report for generative AI and dual-use foundation models. This companion resource is going to help expand upon the SSTF to help address concerns around malicious training data adversely affecting generative AI systems, and also offers guidance on dealing with the training data and data collection processes, including a matrix that identifies potential risk factors and strategies to address them. Among other recommendations, the document also suggests analyzing training data for signs of poisoning, bias, homogeneity, and tampering. We also released a plan for engagement on AI standards globally to help continue NIST's role in driving worldwide development of AI consensus standards, and noted that there's topics that are really ready for standardization, like shared practices for testing, evaluation, verification and validation of AI systems. And the last document was a report on sort of existing tools and techniques for AI-generated synthetic content detection. As you noted, the comment period closed June 4th. Huge thank you to all of you who provided such valuable feedback, especially as I know that we put out 4 documents for public comment with a 30-day turn. So we very much appreciate the quick engagement. And the team is really heads down on incorporating all of that feedback. Our deadline's pretty clear. Those documents will be released by the end of July, consistent with the 280-day directive given in the executive order. But I think that they are both very strong drafts that went out and evolving into an even better place thanks to the public comment. You know, I'll close by just focusing on the AI RMF generative AI profile, which, as you know, is really a key document for NIST and for the broader community. Like all documents NIST put out, it's intended for voluntary use and is supposed to help improve the ability of organizations to incorporate trustworthiness considerations in the design, development, use, and evaluation of AI products and services. It obviously builds on the original AI RMF released in January 2023, but recognizes that there are unique risks and opportunities from generative AI specifically, as opposed to the broader sorts of AI that were considered in the AI RMF. You know, there were 12 different risks that were outlined, sorry, 13 different risks that were outlined for generative AI: data privacy and IP, environmental concerns, toxicity, and bias. And the hope is that document will really provide a clear set of actions to help organizations govern, map, measure, and manage these risks. So thank you for the feedback thus far. We're looking forward to getting the revised versions out, and really agree that's going to help drive a lot of practice in the broader AI space.
No, thank you for that, Elizabeth. And I'll just note that it has a matrix of 400 actions that can be taken to mitigate the risk of generative AI. And Joey, I think you have a link that you can put in the chat or the Q&A so people can access those 4 documents if they have an interest. So now let's talk about the AI Safety Institute. It's a brand new organization that's also housed in NIST. And so basically it's a startup within government. So that's pretty exciting. And you have the opportunity to be the director of it. As I understand, you just started in February. So it's a new job for you, and I imagine there are a lot of challenges with being the head of a startup in government focused on such a very critical issue as AI safety. In April, the vision statement for the Institute was released by the Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, and it indicated that it's rooted in two core principles. First, that beneficial AI depends on AI safety, and second, that AI safety depends on science. Can you tell us more about the AI Safety Institute and the work that you're doing there as its first director?
Absolutely. So the U.S. AI Safety Institute, or AC as we call it, is really focused on advancing the science of AI safety and at the same time advancing the implementation and adoption of that science. We view it as a virtuous cycle whereby safety enables trust, trust enables adoption, adoption enables innovation, and enabling that innovation and really harnessing all the benefits of AI is our North Star, the Department of Commerce, and across the administration. And so over the last couple of months, we've been laying out the plan to how to create the Safety Institute as a long-term asset for the country and for the world, and make sure that frontier AI systems with dangerous capabilities are not developed or deployed without the meaningful safeguards that we need to see. To achieve that vision, there's really three pillars to our work at the Safety Institute. First, we're working on direct testing of AI model systems and agents. We're going to build out a suite of evaluations that we can use as data on how AI models perform, what capabilities they exhibit, and what risks are posed by these capabilities. This is going to be an entirely new US government capacity to directly test frontier models and systems before they're deployed across a range of risks. In our initial pilot phase, we're going to be especially focused on capabilities that could pose a threat to national security, consistent with the executive order directive, including the risk of significantly lowering the barrier to development of chemical or biological weapons, or perpetuating cyber attacks. But we'll also be looking to societal harms perpetuated by frontier models and systems. We'll share feedback with the model developers on where mitigations may be needed prior to deployment. Second, we're going to be issuing guidance across a range of topics. So an early plea to provide your feedback on this initial public draft. One, we're working on guidance for evaluations, which will be released at the end of July, consistent with the president's directive. Our goal is for third-party evaluators and in-house evaluators at companies to use our guidance and really create a robust ecosystem of independent research and evaluation. We know that this field is evolving so quickly, it requires an all hands on deck approach, and that's what we're hoping to foster. We'll also be issuing guidance on how developers can put in place risk mitigations that prevent malicious use, and how do we actually evaluate the efficacy of safety mitigations, given how quickly this field is evolving. We'll also be doing additional guidance on the tools and techniques that are available today to help detect synthetic content and for content authentication, and then work with the Office of Management and Budget to operationalize those findings across the US government, building on the report that was released at the end of April, will be finalized later this summer. The last piece is really around doing fundamental technical research on questions surrounding the interpretability of AI models, new and improved risk mitigations. We really want to have a virtuous circle of research, testing, guidance, all informing each other. We know that this field is moving so quickly that we have to be iterative and adaptive. It can't be issue guidance and it's set in stone. We need to be evolving, we need to be working with the field to evolve, and that's what we're trying to set up.
Terrific. The AI Safety Institute has created the first ever consortium dedicated to AI safety, and more than 200 civil society organizations, academics, and companies, including OpenAI and Google, have signed on to participate in this consortium within the Safety Institute. Can you tell us more about this consortium, including why it was created and the work it's done and that you expect it will do in the future?
Sure. So as you noted, the AI Safety Institute Consortium brings together their more than 280 member organizations representing AI developers, academics, government, industry verticals like healthcare and financial services, and civil society to really support NIST and the AI Safety Institute in our work, and in so doing, help enable the development and deployment of safe and trustworthy AI. We are so privileged in the US to have so many of the leading researchers, leading companies, leading academics, and view this as a way to really help capture the tremendous brain trust that we have here. I think one of my international counterparts referred to it as sort of a crown jewel for us, and that's how we see it. We've been fortunate to get great feedback from the consortium through a series of webinars and other vehicles around the deliverables released at the end of April. And we've established 5 working groups that are really targeted around building a community of practice in risk management for generative AI, synthetic content, evaluations, red teaming, and safety and security. We envision that in the coming weeks, we'll be further cementing the work plans for a lot of these groups and making sure that they're able to not only help inform the work that we're doing at NIST and at AC, but also drive forward on a lot of the open research questions around taxonomies of risks, shared data security practices, and other places where we know there are holes.
One other issue that I wanted to touch on at least briefly is the international implications of the AI Safety Institute's work. Secretary Raimondo recently announced the Commerce Department's plans to work with a global scientific network for AI safety. And I understand there will be a convening of international groups in San Francisco area later this year. Can you tell us more about the international aspects of the Institute's work?
Certainly. So I don't have to tell this group, but AI is obviously a global technology that requires global solutions. And we view it as absolutely vital to our mission and our work, that we work closely with other governments, AI safety institutes, and scientific institutions in countries that uphold human rights, safety, and trust. This idea of an AC network, as we're calling it, is really to pull together AI safety institutes, other government-backed scientific offices, and enable the agile information exchange and resource sharing that will yield significant efficiencies in research. We all have limited resources being spent on safety relative to what's being spent on development. And that's why we need to learn from what each other's doing and not duplicate efforts, but instead work together to advance safety. I think we're also very hopeful that this network will help facilitate alignment of safety policies across participating countries and help move towards common or fully interoperable evaluations and standards, so we can really encourage innovation to thrive for the multinational developers of these technologies. We've obviously had a number of partnerships announced with the UK Safety Institute, a dialogue with the EU around their AI Act. But the hope is to sort of move beyond bilateral relationships to a broader sort of decentralized multilateral network that really helps us deepen the collaboration and to make sure that we have diverse voices at the table. We think our partners in the developing world really need to be a part of the network and a part of the conversation, so we can ensure that benefits from AI for social and economic prosperity reach all countries. To make sure that we're pushing this work forward and really deepen these relationships, we will be bringing together safety institutes and other similar AI offices later this year in San Francisco, and are looking forward to that collaboration and this new phase of international coordination on AI safety, science, and governance, so that like-minded nations can set the rules of the road for AI and ensure that AI developers globally, regardless of where they make their models, have one clear set of standards to follow.
On May 28th, NIST launched the Assessing Risks and Impacts of AI program, which expands on NIST's AI risk management framework and is a new testing and evaluation, validation, and verification program. Can you talk a little bit about this program?
Certainly. I would defer to my colleague Reva Schwartz, who I know is one of your prior speakers and is driving this initiative. But ARIA is really focused on assessing the societal risks and impacts of AI systems, understanding What happens when people interact with AI regularly in realistic settings? It builds on the AI risk management framework and helps to operationalize the framework's risk measurement function. We've already had a terrific response to it. As of June 11th, over 750 people have voluntarily expressed interest in participating. And this is consistent with NIST's many open technology evaluations on things like biometrics, facial recognition. And so we're really excited for what comes next. Encourage folks to dig into the evaluation plan and participate in its initial pilot stage.
Thanks for that. Can you share your perspective on the future of AI governance and how the work of the AI Safety Institute is likely to evolve in the coming years?
Sure. So a couple of things I would say. One is that I think the future of AI governance is still somewhat difficult to predict because the state of AI safety science is still so nascent. We all know there's no shortage of unanswered questions. How can we determine model outputs based off their inner workings? How do we extrapolate what an AI model generates in a sterile environment to deployment contexts? When and why do new capabilities emerge? How do we reliably predict these capabilities? These are questions that even the developers themselves don't always have answers to. And so it is part of that, what we'll be wrestling with Safety Institute is both how do we answer those questions and how do we shape governance and safety, even as we know that there are so many open questions. And I think that from our perspective, it speaks to the need to collaborate closely on research, to be adaptive and iterative, to work with a broad group of stakeholders, not just computer scientists, but ethicists, anthropologists, both of them are on my leadership team, and are really going to help shape how we think about this technology and what it means for people going forward.
Any recommendations for attorneys on how to stay current with AI related legal issues, given the extremely fast pace at which both the technology and legal developments are occurring?
Sure. So one, I think there really is value in going deeper on the technology as you're thinking about the legal issues. I'm sure most folks on this call have played around with ChatGPT or Claude 3 or other tools. But I also find it useful to look at sort of a lot of the technical work that is coming out. So there's Import AI puts out a good newsletter that is helpful in distilling a lot of the latest research. I also think it's useful to think about it as sort of a multi-layer cake. There's obviously so much to learn and focus on what's happening in the US at the federal level with the executive order, with the potential legislation that Leader Schumer has floated in his roadmap. But there's also so much happening at the state level. I believe 600 laws introduced last year and many that are moving forward this year, which are all the more important in a world in which we have a federal executive order but don't yet have legislation. I also would encourage folks to look at the international developments. The EU's AI Act will be going into effect next year and was fully ratified this year. It's a broad and sweeping piece of legislation that's going to have huge implications for multinational companies. The Canadians just passed one law and likely have another one coming. And so there's no easy answer on how to track all of these things, but I do think it requires sort of putting together this mental patchwork as we think about how to serve our clients.
No, that's a terrific answer and very useful. Thank you for that. I see we're approaching the end, but maybe we have time for one question from the Q&A. For companies that have government contracts, is the AI risk management framework required?
So I would refer folks to the OMB memo, which is the equally important but slightly shorter companion to the executive order. And it talks about all of the different ways that federal government agencies will be implementing AI and makes reference to the AIRMF as well as a number of different documents. So would refer people to that, but I do think the AIRMF has huge applications and implications for folks across the board pursuing government contracts or not.
Okay, thank you for that. And Thank you so much for making the time to talk with us today. I mean, you have an incredibly busy workload doing extremely important work focused on one of the world's most important issues, AI safety. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us about this. And we hope we'll have another opportunity in the future to have you come back and give us an update on all of this work. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I really enjoyed the conversation.
I want to thank our audience for attending today. I also would like to let everyone in our audience know that on Monday, the 17th of June, the AI Task Force Working Group on Courts will be putting on one additional webinar. It'll be Data Analytics in the Courts, Essential Information for Emerging Generative AI Functions. This will be at 1:30 Central Time, 2:30 Eastern, and on June 17th, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.